Greetings, kings and queens. Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. I see we have a few people popping into the room. Let's see who's going to be here with me in this afternoon's chat to be part of this conversation live. I am going to be talking about burnout today. That is the topic of today's conversation. I decided to entitle it, Let's Talk About Burnout. Greetings, Saran. Welcome in to this afternoon's chat. Thank you for joining me. And so it is not random or coincidental that I decided to choose burnout as this afternoon's topic. As I'm sure everyone would have noticed, I have not gone live for several Sundays. I did do one live broadcast, I think a week or two ago, but I did it one morning very randomly. But these Sunday afternoon live broadcasts have been suspended for a couple of weeks. I have not gone live. Um, and of course, a lot of people reached out to me to ask what was happening, if I was okay. And truth be told, I was not really okay. I needed to take a break. It wasn't a planned break. It was just very impromptu. It just kind of happened, and I just kind of took it because I needed to take it. And so I myself was dealing with a little bit of burnout. And so I decided to come on today and to tackle that topic and just be very transparent about the fact that I am not immune to these issues. Um, and so I am grateful for those persons who reached out to me during that time that I did not go live for a couple of weeks to check in, to see how I was doing, to ask if, everything was okay. Um, and there were several persons that spoke to me and were really very motivating and very encouraging during that time, which makes me want to just take a moment to point out how important it is to have the right people around you, right? And so I'm very grateful for my tribe. So I just wanted to say that. But during that time, in conversations with different people over the last couple of weeks, I received a number of really, really critical messages. Critical as in not that they were criticizing me, critical as important messages. Let me just clarify that. Very important messages that I got from various members of my tribe. Like the messages didn't all come from the same person. Like there were several members of my tribe who I spoke with over the course of the last couple of weeks who all relayed to me some messages that were so powerful and that I really needed to hear in that moment. And as I sat down preparing for this afternoon's live, in which I am going to talk about burnout, that is coming. I am going to tackle that topic. But I just felt really, really moved to share some of the messages that I got over the last couple of weeks that really, really helped to just kind of pull me out of a hole that I felt like I was in. And this just literally just came into my spirit this afternoon. And I don't know why this was rested in my spirit, but I am going to share because I feel like somebody on this live perhaps needs to hear these messages too, right? Greetings, Queen Cynthia. Thank you for joining me today. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share the messages. They're very, very clear, very specific messages. And I know in my spirit that those persons who spoke to me and relayed these messages to me, that it was not coincidental, that it was not random, that these were very specific and very clear messages that I needed to hear in this moment, in this season of my life. And I feel like there might be somebody listening to me right now live, or perhaps somebody who is going to watch this rebroadcast later on the platform who really needs to hear these things. And so, one of the first messages that I got from a friend of mine is she reminded me of the importance of leaning into whatever is happening in my life right now. As in, we often sit down and we plan our lives out. We plan it and we are mapping out what we truly want to happen and what we also truly believe is going to happen. And there is nothing wrong with planning. I am not here to tell you not to plan. By all means, please do plan. I think it is important to have a plan so that you know what goals you want to pursue. But it is also very important to make room for whatever God has planned for you. And many times, when your plans are failing, it is so that a bigger plan that you know nothing about can prevail. And so often, what we look at as disappointment is actually just a rerouting off of whatever route you were planning to take onto the route that God wants you to take instead, which ultimately turns out to be a better route. And so it was a gentle reminder to me that disappointment is really me sitting down and feeling sad and thinking to myself that God doesn't know what God is doing, which is not possible. That is just not a possibility. God always knows what God is doing. And so the whole idea of just leaning in to whatever is happening right now. It perhaps isn't what you want to be happening right now. Perhaps it is not what you planned for yourself right now, but lean into it. Stop trying to fight. And I don't know who needs to hear this message today, but if the message is for you, just receive it with love. And if it's not for you, that's okay. There is somebody who needs to hear this. And so I am sharing it. I felt compelled to share it. And so I am doing that. I'm trying to just be obedient to the Spirit. And so I'm encouraging you, whoever it is that needs to hear this, to just lean in. Just lean in, whatever is happening. And I know it's difficult. And I'm getting emotional because it's also difficult for me, right? But whatever it is that is happening to you right now, I know you're disappointed. I know it's hard. I know you want to cry like I'm doing now. I know you might feel heartbroken. I know you might feel crushed. I know you might feel like, oh my God, my life is over. And I am here to tell you it's not over. It's not. It's not over. Every door that has closed for you is closing because it needs to close so that another door can open. Okay? Please forgive me. Forgive me. It has been a difficult couple of weeks for me, but listen, these are the messages I was getting, and these are the messages that have been saving me. Okay? So lean in. Whatever is happening, just lean into it. Because what is happening, here's another message that I got. Whatever is happening is preparing you for whatever is going to happen next. Whatever is happening right now, whatever is occurring, as challenging as it is, as difficult as it is preparing you for wherever you are going in your life next. Whatever the next season is, because right now the season you are in is closing, and I know you can feel that it is closing. It's closing, like you're going through all of the motions where you are literally seeing doors closing right now, and you are aware that you are coming to the end of a season in your life. And it is driving you nuts because you don't know what's next. I am telling you that all the things that are happening, everything that is happening right now, including all the people that you are meeting, because even during this ending season, you're meeting people. There are people that are randomly coming into your life, and you're angry because things are not going as you would want. But I'm telling you, all the things that are happening and all the people that you're just randomly and supposedly accidentally meeting right now, they are being sent to facilitate your next move. Just wait for it. Just wait. It's coming. I am telling you, just wait. Just hold on. Okay? Because you're just transitioning. That's all that's happening. You're just transitioning out of one season into another, and the transitions, listen, the transitions be rough. I am here to tell you, and you're getting it from the therapist, who incidentally is also human, because sometimes people forget that. People forget that the therapist is also human, right? So, another message I want to add to that is this feeling that we often get. This feeling that we often get when we're in this transition and we're just in limbo and we feel like everything is ending and nothing is going right. You also get this feeling of like you're wasting time, like time from your life is being wasted. And the idea that all of this that is happening is wasted time, and the idea that you are somehow behind in your life because you're behind wherever people said that you're supposed to be, or you are behind your colleagues because they look like they are reaching all their goals and having all the success, and you feel like you are quote unquote behind, or you're behind your siblings because maybe you have siblings who are crushing their goals and you just cannot seem to get it together, or you are behind your classmates, all of the people that you graduated with who have landed the job of their dreams and are driving their dream cars and living in their dream homes. And you maybe do not have two pennies to your name, and you're just like, what is happening? And you have that feeling and you're living with that in your spirit that I'm behind. I'm late and I'm behind. And I want to say that you are not behind. You're not late. It is not too late, and you are not too old You are exactly where you are supposed to be. If this is your message, if this message that I have on my heart here today, if it's for you, just take it. I didn't plan this. This just came to me just this afternoon. And I am learning to just be obedient, right? Which is another message that I got over the last couple of weeks when I was just kind of here feeling sorry for myself. You know what I mean? That I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at the right time, in the right place, with the right people. I'm not late. I'm not behind. None of my life has been wasted. Every experience that I have gone through, even the painful ones, have served a purpose. And on the point of purpose, all of the experiences I have had, including the painful ones, are needed to fulfill my purpose. Like what I'm sitting right here doing today, delivering this message to somebody who needs to hear it today. This is me walking in my purpose. This is me turning my own challenges into purpose, because that is literally what it's all about. Pain gives birth to purpose. And so a part of that is learning to just be obedient. If you feel like you were called to do something and you are not doing what you have been called to do, this is disobedience. This is disobedience, and you need to learn to be obedient to the Spirit. If you were called to do what I am doing here right now, which is sensitizing people, teaching people, informing people, delivering messages, necessary messages to people, and you are not doing it, you're being disobedient. And the fact that you are going through a difficult time is not an excuse to be disobedient. This is another message that I received. Listen, it was heavy. Disobedience is what it is. And when you are choosing to not walk in your purpose and being disobedient to spirit, the universe has put a mandate on your life and called you to do a particular work, whether it is to counsel people, whether it is to teach, whatever it is. There are people, there are literally people out there in the world who are waiting for what you have. And when you choose disobedience, there are people who are missing out on whatever the universe has placed inside of you to give to the world. So you cannot afford to be disobedient. So the message here is whatever you were called to do, get up and do it. Even if you have to do it scared, get up and do it, because somebody needs what you have. Somebody needs what you have. Okay? Um, Final thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to talk about what I really came on here to talk about, which is burnout. Um, I believe this is the last thing I'm going to add for this section of the broadcast. I believe that whoever needed to hear that message is on this live today. I believe that. And I believe that I am not the first person to have delivered this message to you. I believe you've heard it before. I believe you heard it from some other person or persons, and you have ignored it and you have opted to close your ears to the message. And so today, I am not just here to deliver the message, I am here to give you confirmation. This is confirmation from the universe. That's what this is, because you've heard this message before. This is your confirmation. You are not too old. You are not too late. Everybody does not have to understand why you do what you do or what you were called to do. It is not for them to understand. You know what you are supposed to do. It is time to get up and go do it. That is all. And the reason why I am emotional today is because somebody had to give me this message. Because it's not that I didn't know it, but sometimes you forget. Because life, life just gets in the way. Life gets in your face. And you get tired and burnt out, which is what I'm going to talk about. And so sometimes the universe has to just send somebody to just gently remind you that a purpose was placed on your life. There is purpose on your life. Don't play with that. Do not sleep on it. Okay? So now I'm going to talk about burnout, which is where I was for the last couple of weeks. So crazy. So crazy. Let's talk about burnout, because I think a lot of people think they know what burnout is, but they don't. Burnout isn't just about being fed up of your job. And I know that's what a lot of people believe it is. When they hear the word burnout, they immediately think, okay, it must be that she's working too hard at her job and she's overwhelmed, and that must be it. Burnout isn't just about your job, though. Burnout can also be about what's happening at home. Burnout could be about family stuff. Burnout could be anything. You don't just get burnt out at work. So I want to kind of dig into that a little bit today, but let me just pause and look at the comment section, because I see I have a lot of comments over here. I don't want you guys to think I'm ignoring you. Greetings, Valerie. Thank you very much for being here. Mymin, Talicia, Chris, thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate you. Trust me. You're making me emotional. I'm trying to pull myself together here, people. I appreciate the love, guys. I really do. Saran says, I heard a quote this week. Let me highlight this comment. I would like to highlight this. I heard a quote this week that stuck with me. Honor where you are and trust the process. That is powerful. That is profound and 100% true. This is exactly what I was trying to say when I was talking about the idea of just leaning in. Stop fighting where you are. Just lean in. This is where you are now. Stop fighting it. Lean in and just flow with it, because eventually you are going to get to where you need to get to. Thank you for sharing that, Saran. Greetings, Jamina and Janice. Thank you all so much. Elsie, thank you for being here. And Serene, I am going to highlight this comment also. Serene says, preach, been there. It still happens as we transition or approach a new goal or purpose. It doesn't always go the way we want or happen at the speed I desire. Letting go and being consistent, then decide if I need to change routes, revise the goal, or remain steadfast in my goal. Not easy at all. Many tears, prayers, sending love and light. Spot on, sis. I can't say it any better. I couldn't put it any better. But here we are, right? Here we are. So let's talk a little bit about burnout. Um, just a little bit, because my goal here is to not go past 6. So let's first talk about what burnout is. And I jot down a few notes just to make sure that I hit the important points and that I don't forget anything, right? So, burnout, of course, is a form of exhaustion, as we all know. Exhaustion, feeling swamped, feeling like you cannot cope, feeling overwhelmed. And I really want to highlight that burnout is not just related to work. You can be burnt out over other situations that have nothing to do with work. You could be a stay at home mom raising children and be burnt out. Burnout is not linked just to getting up and going to an office or to a place of employment. Burnout is not just physical. Burnout can also be emotional and psychological. And so I really want to start off by just underscoring that and clearly defining what the idea of burnout is. It's a result of excessive, consistent, prolonged emotional and mental stress. Also, it can be excessive, prolonged physical stress. And so the point here is that burnout is not, it doesn't show up in any one specific way. Burnout is multifaceted. It can be physical exhaustion, yes, of course, but it can also be emotional and mental burnout. So maybe you're not getting up and going to an office every day. And so you think perhaps you cannot get burnout. That is not true. You could be home all day and still suffer from burnout because there is a situation going on in your home, in your family, in your relationship, in your marriage, with your parents, with your children, that can cause mental and emotional burnout because it's excessive and prolonged stress. So it's not always a physical exhaustion. Sometimes it's mental and emotional exhaustion, and that is also burnout. And so I want to be very clear that this very myopic definition of burnout that we usually hear is really not accurate. Burnout isn't just about being physically tired. Sometimes you're not even physically tired. You are mentally tired, but because you're mentally drained, it causes you to feel physically tired because your mind and your body are connected. And so I just want to be clear about that, right? And so, yes, in many cases, burnout is related to one's job, yes, but not always. If you are overwhelmed, if you are emotionally drained, if you are unable to keep up with the demands of any particular situation, whether it is work or home or otherwise, that can qualify as burnout. And so, what does burnout cause? Burnout causes you to just become unproductive. Like, it literally saps your energy. Literally, it makes you feel tired. Even when you physically haven't done anything, you're still tired. If you are having burnout, you can go to bed and sleep 8 hours and wake up and still feel exhausted. I have had that experience. I had that experience within the last couple of weeks where I was sleeping a full night because I was like, maybe it's just that I'm not sleeping enough. Maybe if I just get more sleep, I will feel better. It's not more sleep that I needed. I needed for my mind to be at peace. I was burnt out completely. Not a physical exhaustion, but a mental exhaustion that was creeping into my physical body. And so I would sleep, and it doesn't matter how much I sleep, I wake up, I'm still dragging. And I'm just like, I cannot pull myself together because you just burnt out. And so you're not just lacking energy and just completely lethargic. Then added to that, so that you really are able to identify that this is really burnout, it also begins to just take an emotional toll on you because you're not just physically tired, you're also starting to just feel hopeless and just sometimes angry and resentful because this isn't the life you wanted, or life isn't going the way you planned, or every time you make a plan, it falls through. And so there's the anger and there's the resentment that you tend to feel a lot of that when you're going through burnout. And if you were feeling it before, it just exacerbates it. It makes it 100 times worse. And you become cynical about life. Like you literally begin asking yourself, what is the point? What's the point? I'm fed up. I can't, you know. Also, if you are going through this for a long period of time, like long term burnout begins to suppress your immune system. And what happens when it begins to suppress your immune system? You become susceptible to physical illness. So then you're more vulnerable to colds and the flu, and you're always getting sick, and you always have a cough or a cold, or everything that's going around you catch it. And then when you do get a cold, you're struggling to get over it. Everybody else gets over a cold in a week or two. You have a cold that's dragging on for 3 and 4 weeks, and you're taking all the medication and you cannot figure it out. Sometimes it's because your immune system is suppressed, meaning that your body is not even able, like you don't even have enough strength to fight sickness. Long term burnout can cause this. So, I also wanted to point out that there are different types of burnout, three specific kinds that I want to highlight. Right? And I'm doing this because I really want to underscore this idea in your minds that burnout is no one thing. It doesn't look like any one thing. And I know that we have been taught and socialized that burnout looks a particular way. And I want to kind of uproot that today and present you with a different concept of burnout completely. And so I want to present you with three different types of burnout. Okay. Greetings, MJ. Thank you very much for popping in. So there is overload burnout, or I'm calling it overload burnout. Overload burnout is the one that we hear about all the time. This is the one that you have probably heard about, and it is probably the one that comes to your mind whenever you hear the word burnout, and that's overload burnout. Overload burnout is when you're working harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, and you're just going like the Energizer Bunny non-stop. Like you're the one who's working 12 and 16 hours a day instead of going home after 8 hours like everybody else. And you're just in this frantic pursuit of success. Maybe you're trying to make more money, maybe whatever it is, whatever goals you are pursuing. And so you're just on this go all the time. That is what causes overload burnout, right? You find some people who are in this mode and they are working even though it is jeopardizing their health. It's jeopardizing their relationships with their partners and their spouses because they're not spending any time with their partners or their children. It's jeopardizing their health because they're barely sleeping, they're not eating properly, and they're just always tired. Like that type of burnout, that's what we call overload burnout, when you're just overdoing it physically. And that is the one that we most often hear people talking about. And it's the one that most people think about when they hear the word burnout. That is overload burnout, but it's not the only type of burnout that exists. That is just one. You also have another one that I want to present to you that I rarely ever hear people talking about, which is under challenge burnout. I bet you have never heard of that one because nobody talks about it, but it's also very, very common. What is under challenge burnout? Under challenge burnout is when you are in a situation, and it doesn't just mean at home. This could be a situation at work, at home. It might even be at your church. Wherever the situation is playing out, it doesn't matter. But you are in a situation where you feel underappreciated. You feel like you are not valued. You feel like your contributions do not matter. Or maybe you feel like you're not being given an opportunity to really demonstrate what you have the ability to do. Like nobody's paying attention to your gifts, to your talents, to your abilities. Maybe you're in a job where you're just bored, where they're not really like, you're just generally underappreciated. This can lead to a type of burnout that we call under challenged burnout. If you've never heard of it, Google it and read up about it. On the challenge burnout, you're not being provided with the opportunities that you want. You're in maybe in a job for I don't know how many years, and you're looking for opportunities for upward mobility and for growth, and there's nothing, and you just feel stuck. And it may be a job, it may be a relationship, it may be a home situation, whatever it is, and you're just feeling undervalued and like there's no way out. Undervalued, underappreciated, under challenged, whatever the situation may be. And over time, that starts to take a toll on you mentally. And it starts eating away at you because you literally feel useless in the situation that you're in. And you feel stuck, both stuck and useless. And that can eat away at you and lead to burnout. It may not be a physical burnout, but it's a mental one that will ultimately lead to a physical one. And we refer to that as under challenge burnout. And the final one I want to share with you is what we call neglect burnout. What is neglect burnout? Neglect burnout is a situation in which you feel helpless. You may feel like you are incompetent. You may feel like you are responsible for whatever challenging or difficult situation you happen to be in, whether it is at work or in any other setting. Something is not going right, or the situation isn't working out the way you want it to. You've tried many different routes and nothing is happening. No matter what you try, things keep going sour, and you begin to feel as if it's some kind of neglect on your part that is causing things to not go as they should in your life. And that can also lead to a type of burnout that we call neglect burnout, where you literally start to feel like something is wrong with you. Like, I'm the problem. I must be incompetent. I am not good at what I do. And it makes you even less likely to be good at whatever it is that you're doing, because it makes it difficult for you to keep up with your responsibilities when you are having those thoughts in your mind, right? Um, this type of burnout is closely connected to imposter syndrome. I'm sure you have heard me talk about imposter syndrome on here before. And this type of burnout is connected to imposter syndrome. It's like a psychological pattern in which you are doubting your own skills, your own talents, your own accomplishments and abilities. Even though other people can see it, you yourself can't. And neglect burnout is, it mirrors that type of psychological pattern. And so you are thinking that all the things, whatever is falling apart in your life, it must be me. It must be because I'm incompetent. I'm a failure somehow. It must be because I am neglecting to do something that I should be doing. And that causes a type of burnout, a really, really terrible type of burnout that we call neglect burnout. It eats away at you up here, and then it begins to trickle into your physical body and take a toll on you physically. Like, this can literally suppress your immune system and begin to make you susceptible to physical illness. This is not a joke. So I hope you are really taking me seriously as I talk about this here today. Right. Let me just pause for a brief moment and just look at my chat section. I don't like my listeners to think I'm ignoring them. So, um, thank you, husband. Yes, I know that your support is indeed unlimited. That undoubtedly. Um, Yes, thank you, Mymin, for that encouragement. Greetings, Manifa and Natasha. Thank you very much for being here with me today. So let's continue. So we're talking about burnout. So now I want to talk about, like, what exactly are some of the things that you might see happening in your own life, just in case you're wondering, like, some of what she's saying there sounds really familiar. Like, is it possible that I have burnout and I don't know that that is what is happening to me? Because it sounds all so familiar to me. Like, how can I be absolutely sure that it's burnout? And I need you to know that burnout does not happen immediately. Like, you don't just wake up one day and you are just like, okay, I've got burnout. That's not how it works. Burnout is a gradual process. It happens over a period of time, and it's a process in which you have stressors in your life, whether they are physical or mental or emotional, and these stressors are building over time, right? Whether it's at work or at home or at church or at any other setting in which you are experiencing constant stressors consistently over a prolonged period of time, it builds over time. So this is not something that's just going to happen, oh, in a week. This is something that will be building over several weeks, perhaps months, that then ultimately turns into burnout. So at first, it might be subtle. You might just be like, yeah, I'm just a little Tired, yeah, but the longer that it goes unaddressed, the longer you ignore it and pretend to be fine, the worse the situation becomes, right? And then eventually, and I want to just interject this here, is that people who end up having nervous breakdowns. You hear people talking about nervous breakdowns. Oh, she had a nervous breakdown. Oh, he had a nervous breakdown. Do you even know what a nervous breakdown is? Most people that I hear using the terminology don't have any idea what it is or what it means. I am going to come back here and do a live on nervous breakdowns. What is a nervous breakdown? What does it look like? What causes it? What to do about it? I'm going to do a live. I actually have that on my list, and I may possibly do that next week, Sunday, because I feel like we use these terms so loosely, so callously sometimes, and we do not comprehend the seriousness of the terminology that we're just throwing around. Oh, I'm having a nervous breakdown. No, you're not. You do not want to have a nervous breakdown. That is not something to be played with, right? And we're going to talk about that. And now that I am speaking to it, I feel like next Sunday I am going to make that the topic of next Sunday's discussion. And I will come back and I will do a live broadcast about nervous breakdowns and what that term actually means, because I feel like that is something people really need to be sensitized about. Um, so obviously, if you are in a state of burnout, you're going to have not just exhaustion, but you're also going to be having a lack of enthusiasm. Like you're not going to want to do anything. And this is another symptom of burnout. You're physically exhausted, yes, but also you just, even if you're not physically exhausted, you have no desire to do anything. All of the desire, all the drive, all the motivation to get up and go, 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 that leaves you. You have absolutely zero enthusiasm to do anything. And that ultimately leads to you not wanting to engage in all of the things that you typically engage in. Um, and so you will withdraw. You don't want to, like, for example, with me, I didn't want to go live. I decided not to go live for a couple of weeks because my drive and my motivation to be out here trying to sensitize people was just, it was practically depleted. I could barely pick myself up off my bed, right? And if you do not do something about this, this is what can ultimately lead to what we are referring to as the nervous breakdown, quote unquote. And you don't want to go there. That is not something to be toyed with. You want to, at that point, when you realize that you are at that point where you are literally lacking enthusiasm and motivation and the joy that you usually have to get up and do the things that you normally do, that is not a good sign. Yet that is a sign that you need to take a beat and check yourself. That is not a path that you want to continue down. Okay. And I just want to stick in here that burnout can often be confused with depression. Yes, a lot of people confuse burnout with depression because of how it makes you feel. And so, it's important to do what we call a differential diagnosis to make sure that we're separating the signs and the symptoms so that we don't confuse someone who is clinically depressed with someone who is just suffering from severe burnout, because they tend to look very much alike. If you have severe burnout, it can start showing up like depression. when you do not actually have clinical depression. And so we have to do what I just referred to as a differential diagnosis, which is essentially making sure that we are not confusing one diagnosis with another, right? I see Cynthia asking a question. Let me just highlight this question. Can we suffer with a combination of these burnout types? Yes, we can. The answer to that is yes. It is possible to have more than one type of burnout at the same time. So you can have overload burnout, which is the one where you just going, 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 like the Energizer Bunny. And that could also be combined with maybe neglect burnout, where you feel like you are incompetent and you have no idea what you're doing. And it's your fault. It's all your fault that everything is going wrong. And so it is absolutely possible to have more than one of those burnout types. Simultaneously, they can present themselves. Hi, I Kenley. Thank you very much for being here. And I'm sorry to hear that you know all these burnouts all too well. I encourage you to take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. That is all I can say, right? A word to the wise is sufficient. Okay. Greetings, Giselle. Giselle. Giselle says she's listening in the bus station in Buffalo. All right. Well, make sure you get to your destination safely, Giselle, and thank you very much for tuning in. Manifa says, I feel like nowadays more persons are burning out than before. Some of the older folks are saying this generation are weak. How can we educate the older generation that breaks are needed? Oh boy, that is a loaded question. Um, let's see how I will tackle that. I will start by saying that I'm going to start by saying that the vulnerability to burnout of the current generation is much higher. In other words, we are far more vulnerable to burnout. And this is my personal point of view on this, okay? I think this generation is far more vulnerable to burnout than previous generations were. And the reason why I say that is because we are exposed to so much more than previous generations were exposed to. There is more to be burnt out over, is what I am trying to say. Previous generations did work harder. So there was a lot of physical labor. They were not getting up and going to offices as much as we are. They were getting up and going to their farms, etc., or running their own businesses. And so there was a lot more physical or manual labor. And so perhaps if people were overworking in those days, it was likely that you would see a lot of what we call overload burnout, where people were just working too long, too hard, too many hours. But other types of burnout were not as common because life was simpler. This is not to say other types of burnout did not occur. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there were other types of burnout happening, but not as frequently as now. Life was so much simpler. There was less technology. There was no social media. It was just a very simple, down to earth life, and therefore much less to burn out over. Nowadays, oh, this generation, and I'm scared for the generation that is to come because it is not getting better. It is actually getting progressively worse, where we are having now the level of exposure that we have now to the world and to all that is happening, even the things that are happening to our planet and to our environment. I mean, there is a lot more to be burnt out over, truly. I think also perhaps And this is a long shot, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think also perhaps even the way we care for our bodies does not look the same as the generations before us. The way we eat and drink, the types of foods that we consume and that kind of thing. I think all of that, and even the toxins that we are exposed to in our environment today, I think all of those things make us more susceptible to burnout and exhaustion, you know. And so I think I think that may contribute to why more people are burning out now. And I will add finally that I think also previous generations had a culture where rest and breaks was not a thing. And so I think it was very much a thing that existed perhaps in our own cultural community, and in our families as well, where resting and taking breaks was not seen as a necessity, but more of a desire. We understand now because we are more sensitized with regards to our mental and our physical health, that rest is not a desire, it's actually a need, or it's both, I should say. It's not just a desire, it is also a need. Breaks are a need, right? To deprive yourself of sufficient rest is actually detrimental to your health. And I think this level of awareness that we have perhaps was not the level of awareness that the generations before us had. And so there was, perhaps even a little bit of shame attached to taking breaks and resting too much and taking holidays. We, of course, understand the need for that now, and the shame and that was once attached to it is no longer a thing. But of course, um we face the usual generation gaps in terms of sensitivity. And so I would understand why persons of previous generations might think, what's wrong with these young people? Like, I get why that might sometimes happen, right? Um, let's highlight this response from Monifa. To piggyback on your reply to my previous question, do you think that vacation days or sick days need revision in the workplace? And how can an employer help with burning out? Ooh, wow. That is another loaded question. Um, I can tell you what, I don't know that I can really comment on employers and what they should be doing, because then we're going to go into labor law and all of those things. And perhaps I can bring somebody on here one Sunday to talk about labor law and labor rights and these types of things, because I think that that is an important discussion to have. But what I will say is that employers do need to be sensitive to an employee's rights to take all of their time off. And that is another thing that I think is common in our cultural community, where there is some unspoken expectation that people will not take their time off, or they will not take their vacation. Like, you're entitled to 12 days and there is an unspoken expectation that you will only take 6, because we can't afford to lose you for 12. Like, who's going to do your job, right? And so I know that this has happened. And so I can speak to that and encourage people to absolutely take your vacation days, take your sick days too. Take them all, because you are not only entitled to them, but you're also preserving your health when you do that. I need to plug my PC in, please. Please give me a moment, because I just got an alert that my battery's a little low. So let me just plug my PC in really quick. All right, we're good now. So that is the best I can give you with regards to that. I do think that employers should be sensitive with regards to the importance of employees taking the time off that the law entitles them to. And I think also that it's important for employees to do that and get out of this habit where it like you feel like you're going to earn some type of medal for never taking your full vacation, for being the person that always has 100 vacation days accumulated because you never took a day off in like 5 years. Like there is no medal. No, nobody's giving out medals for that, right? You know what they're giving out for that? Coffins. Coffins are what they're giving out for that because they're burying people who are dying because they are stressed out and exhausted, right? There are no medals being given out for those persons who refuse to take time off and take care of their bodies. That is not what we're doing. And so and that's the best I can do with tackling that question. But you have made me start thinking that perhaps it might be a good idea for me to come back on one day and just talk about that, talk about mental and physical health in the workplace, and bring someone on here who can actually speak to the laws that govern this. I think that's a program that I'm definitely going to plan. I think that that is a topic that people would definitely benefit from. Okay, um, let's wrap this live up. I said I wasn't going to go past 6 o'clock, and we are now at 3 minutes after six. So let me just wrap this up, right? Um, let's talk about solutions, right? Very quickly, I'm just going to throw a few quick tips at you. If you are somebody if you're listening to me today and you feel like you might be dealing with some burnout, don't ignore it. Please don't ignore it. Do something about it. Do not let it deteriorate until it gets to the point where you find yourself having a nervous breakdown. We don't want you to get to that point. Do something about it. So I'm going to throw 6 quick tips at you. I'm not going to elaborate too much. I'm just going to throw the tips out very quickly so that we can bring this live to a close. Number one, I encourage better management of your workload. Better management of your workload looks different from person to person. You will know what it looks like for you in your situation if you are dealing with burnout. Better management might look like reducing your workload. Better management might look like delegating responsibilities to other people instead of thinking that you can do it all. Better management might look like shifting your work hours and working smarter instead of harder, shortening your day a little bit. Better management of your workload might mean like not procrastinating, doing things on time when you plan to do them, not putting things off. Better management of your workload might look like, better planning so that you do the work in smaller bite-sized pieces so you get it done over a period of time rather than trying to tackle it all in one day. I'm just giving examples here of what better management of your workload might look like. But you are the one who will have to determine what it looks like because you're the one who's actually going to implement this, right? Um, and so that's number one. Number two is get enough sleep. One of the things that can help you to combat burnout is ensuring that you are sleeping sufficiently. We really underestimate the importance of a good night's sleep. And many of us think that we can deprive ourselves of sleep consistently over extended periods of time and not pay the price. You always pay the price in the end. I'm here to tell you. And so, sleep. Give yourself the chance to sleep. Get enough sleep and make sure you're also getting quality sleep. So, it's not just about going to bed, it's make sure that when you go to bed that you sleep well. Okay? Number three, have some relaxation and recreation in your schedule. Some wise person once said a long time ago that all work and no play makes Johnny a very dull boy. That is still very true and very applicable. Relaxation and recreation are critical components in any healthy lifestyle. If you're working all the time and you cannot tell me what you do to for recreation, like if I ask you, and I do have some clients who are like this, and I've even been guilty of this myself. Let me not say it's not just my clients. I have also been guilty of this in the past, where somebody asks, "So what do you do for recreation? What do you do for fun?" And you literally have to sit there and you're like thinking, and you're thinking, well, like you literally rack your brain to try to come up with one thing that you do for fun. That is not okay. There should be some type of recreation that is a consistent part of your lifestyle, no matter what it is. The recreation looks different from person to person. Do whatever floats your boat, but you need some recreation. You need some fun. You need a hobby or something. Find something, do something other than work. Do something that brings you joy. So that is number three. Number four, I encourage you to practice mindfulness. This is something that I would like you to actually go and read up about. I'm sure you've heard the word before, but perhaps you're not entirely sure what it means. Mindfulness is a lifestyle that encourages you to remain present. It is almost impossible to worry if you are present. You are typically either in the past or in the future whenever you are worrying. You're worrying about something that has already happened, or you're worrying about something that may happen in the future, but you're not present. And mindfulness is a practice that encourages and teaches the art of being present. And so I encourage you to practice mindfulness. This is also an excellent antidote for burnout. Read up more about it online. You can find lots of videos about mindfulness on YouTube and about mindfulness based practices like mindful yoga, mindful meditation, mindful journaling, mindful gratitude practices. You name it. There are so many that you can benefit from. Just take a moment and give it a whirl one of these days. Check out online and see what you find about mindfulness and try some mindfulness based activities in your life. Um, I think that that is also very, very good for burnout, for keeping burnout at bay, and for combating burnout if you are experiencing it. Number five is have a support system. Very important. And I actually saw Cynthia post this in the chat. Cynthia has the support system was stronger than as well. The community worked together too. I think she's talking about what happened in previous generations, and I absolutely agree. And let me tell you something, having the right tribe around you can literally change your life. Literally change your life. I do not say this lightly. Those of you who were on here from the very beginning of this live broadcast today heard the first part of my live broadcast where I spoke to how my tribe had poured into me over the course of the last few weeks when I was struggling to pull myself together. And I shared some of the messages that they were pouring into me during that time. And I am saying again, the support system, I like to call it the tribe that you have around you, can literally change your life. And so having a support system, so important. Having the right people around you, so important. So please ensure that you have a support system. Stop trying to do it all alone. Human beings were not meant to exist in isolation. We were actually meant to exist in community. Don't try to be that person who is going to be an island onto yourself. That is actually detrimental to your health. All right. And the last one, number six, is exercise. This is something I myself am very guilty of. I really need to get back into an exercise regimen. This is also very, very good for keeping burnout at bay. Exercise helps your body to release hormones that actually boost your mood. Feel good hormones. It's like a natural um, mood stabilizer. It's a natural antidepressant. Your body immediately benefits both physically and mentally from exercise. And so, if you're not doing any type of exercise, I encourage you, I strongly encourage you to start an exercise regimen. Start today. Start right away. You don't have to go and join a gym. Just get up and go outside and take a walk in the morning or in the afternoon or whatever. Get a group of friends. This is where your support system might come in handy, and you go out and walk together. Call Saran. Saran is on this live right now. Dr. Saran King. She is, she will get you exercising. She will get you up and moving. Saran, I'm putting you in charge of the exercise regimen for the persons who are listening to this live. So when people start inboxing you, you will know why, right? And I see Saran commenting here. Saran says tips to manage burnout. One, better management of your workload. Two, get sufficient and quality sleep. Three, relaxation and recreation. Four, practice mindfulness. Five, have a support system. And six, exercise. There you have it. And add number seven, if you don't know how to get started with the exercise regimen, message Saran and she will sort you out. All right. Yes, and oh, and she's endorsing what I said earlier, that exercise releases the happy hormones. That is absolutely no joke, for real. Okay? Oh, and she's giving all of you permission. She says, call me. All right? She will get you sorted out with an exercise regimen that will keep your body in line. Okay? All right, so this is where I am going to end today's live broadcast. Um, Thank you all so much for being here, for tuning in to today's live. Thank you. Giselle says, good topic. That's why I take a weekend off to New York because I felt burnt out. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Giselle. You do that. Take care of yourself. All right. So thank you everyone for being here for today's live broadcast. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for interacting with me today. I will be back next week, Sunday afternoon. And next week, Sunday, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about nervous breakdowns. I think that would be a very good follow up after today's conversation because burnouts ultimately lead to nervous breakdowns. And so I think I'm going to just follow up today's conversation with a conversation about that so that we can stop throwing around this whole term, oh, somebody had a nervous breakdown, without knowing what it is that we are actually saying. Okay. Oh, Dr. King just put her phone number in the chat. So you can grab that and give her a call so that she can get you into an exercise program. This is not a joke. She's serious. Call her. Okay. She really is the person. She's the go to for that. Okay. So we are not joking. This is for real. You can give her a call so that she can sort you out. All right. Okay. So, as usual, I am sending love, light, and abundance to all of you. Thank you for being here today. If you are listening to me now, or if you are listening to the rebroadcast at some point in the future, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your continued support of the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. And I will see you next week, Sunday, for another live broadcast. Until then, be a beautiful week. Bye, everybody.